Well, I think this morning the news broke. Obviously, Danyle's, I think he's addressed the broken. It's not going to be at the club. How tough is that, Rory? Someone you've spent 10, 15 years playing.
Yeah, well, that's himself and Tommy now, and they're look, it's an incredibly tough time of year, this little period, because you can lose some of your greatest mates in a footy club, and Tom and Charles are certainly those two have been through an incredible amount of good times and some tough times with those two in particular, and they're great human beings. So that's always the hardest thing, is saying goodbye to those sort of people. And who knows what's in store for them both, but yeah, we wish them all the best as a footy club.
And I guess one thing is, Sloane, sometimes tough decisions have to be made for the long term. Is that the way you sort of view it?
Yeah, I suppose as a footy club you've got to back in your list management, and that's what it looks like.
Do you think Danyle still has something to offer at Adelaide?
Yeah, I mean, he's had obviously incredibly tough year with injuries, but I mean, the nick he's in at the moment, how strong he looks, I mean, who knows? He could certainly play still at the level, absolutely.
No, it's just saying, just retails. The investment's gone into Bartlett and Murray, I suppose, mate, from a long-term point of view. How impressive you think with those two, and of course, the Danyle means that he has to come to an end here.
Yeah, and I mean, Danyle's played a huge role in the development of those two. In particular, Jordan Butts. I mean, Butts, he spent a lot of time with Tales, especially in the early days. And mate, we couldn't be happy with his development. I mean, you've seen how he's performed this year and how Nick Murray's come along, and we've seen some really, Billy Frampton's some really good form down there too. So we've got a few options.
It's been obviously a highly publicised, difficult week for the footy club. What's your take as captain on the situation?
Mate, just as a whole footy club, we don't stand for any form of racism, and look, I've said this to a few people. I mean, for me, if I could put my Miss Universe tiara out on, it'd be, I think the main message for me to all of Australia is just celebrate people's differences. That's probably the clearest message I can give, is you definitely don't stand for racism, and treat everyone the same, but celebrate people's differences is what the message I'd love to send.
Has spoken to Tex recently?
Yes, I have, yeah.
How's he going?
Mate, obviously Tex is hurting, like a lot of our footy club. Our Indigenous boys are hurting, clearly. Our whole footy club's hurting, because this has been pretty tough to deal with, to be honest. Yeah, so we've got a lot of people to look after, and that's my role, that's Nixie's role, that's everyone's role in the footy club, is to make sure that everyone's okay in this situation. Our Indigenous boys, our players, and Tex are part of our footy club, so we have to make sure he's okay too.
What do you do as captain to help your Indigenous players, and more broadly, there would have been non-Indigenous players hurt by what happened as well, but specifically the four players, what do you do as skipper that doesn't happen?
Put your arm around them, have a chat, have a conversation. I think that's one thing I'd encourage everyone to do.
And then respond to that.
Well, they've been very honest with myself, which is, yeah, all I can ask for. And I mean, it's a very tough one for someone like myself to try and put myself in their position. So to try and understand this at a deeper level, I think that's, as I'll say, it is something we all should do, is have the chat.
Do they want Taylor back in the club next year?
I haven't spoken to him about that yet, no.
Do you have an idea if the playing group as a whole would like him back in the club next year?
We haven't spoken about that yet. If you're asking me personally, in an ideal situation, of course I'd love him here. But it's not as simple as that, and there's a lot still to play out, and it's obviously a complicated issue.
Has it been hard for you personally? I get you and Taylor have been really good friends, probably are still really good friends, that he's done something like that, and you've got to get your head around it?
Well, Tex is incredibly remorseful. What he said was, he's owned it. He's incredibly remorseful. He's apologised. He's met with Robbie, and he's working through it the best way he knows how at the moment. So of course I'm good friends with Tex. I care about him, but I've got a lot of good friends in our footy club as well that I also care about, and that's the balance at the moment, is to make sure our Indigenous players are well looked after. As I said, Tex is part of our footy club, so I'll be there for him too.
Would you like to see maybe answer questions about? I know he's put out a video on Monday evening. Do you think he should answer questions about how it happened to him?
I think there's a process that had to be followed in this situation, and that's, I think he just has to stick tight to that. I'm not sure how to answer that, I'm sorry, yeah.
As the captain, as the club, did you have a chat with Matt Crouch about this? It was said to him he's a leadership group member, maybe if he, for whatever reason, maybe he didn't call out at the time. Did you have a chat with him about that?
Again, I'm not sure the whole process, who and what was said. I think that's something that's been confidential, so I can't answer that, I'm sorry.
Rory, when you found out, can you just share just your reaction? I mean, for most of us, it was disappointing, really. What did you think when someone told you that this was happening to Taylor? This is what you've done?
First thing was to check in on the people of our footy club, absolutely everyone, and make sure everyone was okay. And that's been, I suppose, the whole thought process, and my standing at the moment is to make sure our group stays as connected as possible.
And fans as well, I know a lot of fans are sort of conflicted. Obviously, a lot of love for Taylor, condemning what he's done. What would you say to those who have been confused about how to deal with this situation?
Well, that's my message before is have the conversation and celebrate people's differences, because racism is an issue in Australia, but yeah, it's celebrate people's differences, mate.
Did you watch Eddie the other night?
I saw Eddie's, yeah.
Did you see one of his greats sort of pour his heart out like that?
Well, so, like, I was around when, I've been around, and the footy club's been around when Eddie obviously went through a very difficult time here. And that's something, when we talk about conversations and learning, something I think I'm proud of the footy club is, it was one of our officials that called this out. And that's something we saw in Eddie's pleas for people to start standing up so he doesn't have to. So for me, it was a really, I think, a step in the right direction for our footy club that we were able to call this out and get on the front foot, which, yeah, I mean, we've clearly still got a way to go, but I think that's a really positive sign.
Matt Crouch you spoke about, you hopefully he stays and can step up.
I love Matt Crouch, yeah. He's obviously been through his challenges this year with some injuries, and yeah, I'm not sure how that one plays out, but yeah, I love him. Yeah, that one, again, this management.
Do you want to be gone? You can say that.
Who knows? I think he pulled up well from the session, but it would be likely. Big Strawny's been in great form, so he's been knocking the door down for a good month of footy. I'm not sure how many people have watched his sample games, but he's been incredibly consistent. And I know sometimes timing's everything. Sometimes you just need a crack, and Big Rob's a little sore, so if Strawny can come in, I mean, what a challenge it sets him for his first or his second game of AFL footy. But I'll be extremely excited if he does.
Do you, I mean, a lot of teams try to stop Gawn, Petrarca, and Oliver, and really had much success, mate. It was a pretty tough task. Do you take confidence out of what you were able to do last time?
Yeah, I think Oliver had like almost a career best game, or one of the AFL fantasy stats best game of all time or something. So they are incredibly good footballers. It's a huge challenge for our midfield group, but one we're up to last time, and I mean, for our group, I mean, a lot of our group hasn't played on the MCG, so that's the thing I'm excited about the most, is we finally get another game on the MCG.
How many?
I actually don't know. It'd have to be half the group, surely.
How are you finding your form, your game this season?
It's a bit inconsistent, I think, for me. I've had some games I felt really, really strong and really good, and there's been some games I think I've fluctuated in a bit of form with the team as well. So certainly be something next year. I really want to make sure I'm as fit and healthy as possible and can launch into next season. But yeah, probably inconsistent if I was to use a word.
Are you still on track for surgery this season, mate?
Yep, surgery for the finger, still end of season. Who knows, might get this snoz fixed up at some point too, Theo. It needs to be straightened.
Let me know who you are.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.